Lindenhurst is a village of 27,000 on the south shore of Long Island, New York. These are the people who grew up there and their stories. Everyone I know is from Lindenhurst.
Right now, I'm living up in Huntington Village. I moved about 3 times in 3 years, so I've become a little vagabond, but I'm pretty happy up in Huntington right now.
Are you like walking distance from the village?
Yeah, it's about 5 minutes to walk into the village. I've been there for about a year now, and I moved there around Thanksgiving, so I was able to appreciate the little Christmas spectacular they do there. It's a real nice area. It's been a blast living there. But right now, I'm actually recording this here in Lindenhurst, in my family's house. With family today, so here we go.
So we're all within a couple miles of each other at the most
Yeah.
right now. Cool. So let's bring it back then all the way. What are your family roots in Lindenhurst? How did they end up here?
Family roots. All right. Well, they lived in Rosedale, and when I became a thing, they came down here, I think around 85 or so. I was just a little tyke when they came to Lindenhurst. They actually moved into the model home on Putnam Avenue. So right by the time that was the model one. And when they moved into it, my mother used to always tell me she pretty much spent all her money on it. And when my grandfather and her mom were, celebrating her and my father purchasing the house, she was crying. She was saying, "I got no money left. I got nothing. I'm broke." And people would throw the house and break the windows. She went through a whole thing. But my parents made it through, and they've been living in this house ever since.
Yeah. And obviously the value has increased exponentially since.
Oh yeah, I remember when I was a little kid, the dumpster to Dunkin' Donuts was close to the house. So I would leave the home and look up on the roof, and there would be a community of seagulls just chilling out, having a smoke, talking to each other about the life, being a seagull. And then they finally moved the dumpster towards Sunrise Highway. And then the seagulls were like, "Screw this, this house isn't cool anymore. House
Oh,
has
yeah.
been through."
So what did your parents do for a living when you were growing up?
My mom worked as a secretary to the Lindenhurst district, actually. She was right there in the office for years. My dad he worked for Delta Airlines. He started from the bottom. He went up to be a supervisor in cargo. And then, fast forwarding to 9/11, he lost his job because the airlines were a complete disaster at that time. And he actually had to start from the very beginning when I was just a baby. He had to start all over again. And he was able to climb the ranks again. Crazy. My parents went through a lot.
Yeah. It seems. And how many siblings?
I had 3, actually. Right now, I have Christian, who's 10 years younger, and his twin, Taylor. So those are my 2 brothers. My third brother, Joseph, didn't make it. He only lasted a few days or so. But I have immortalized him in the first book that I published. I dedicated to Joseph. So his memory will always live on. Not that I really met him, but still, he came into the world, so he was part of the family.
Yeah, a human's a human, whether it's a minute or 100 years, right?
There it is.
For sure.
Yeah. So what are some of your first memories of just being out and about, first days of school? And which elementary school did you go to?
I went to
Roll.
Roll School. Uh, yeah, I remember the cafeteria. I remember the little astronaut spaceman mural that was in Roll. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
I remember my mother used to threaten me. She used to say, "Hey, I'm looking through the window, making sure you're eating all your food." I said, "Oh my God, my mother's going through all that trouble to make sure I'm eating." It's crazy what you believe when you're a kid.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
oh my God. But yeah, roll was fun. Uh, and then going up into the middle school, it was a bit more hectic in the middle school. I'm pretty sure there was at least a food fight every week. Unbelievable. And those, you remember the little
There,
cafeterias?
I always say he wouldn't know because Anthony went to OLPH, but it was very prison like setting in the cafeteria in the middle school for some reason.
Oh, I remember someone threw a deodorant stick. It missed my head by inches and it slammed into the wall and left a little mark on the wall. Said, Jesus, that's not food. You're breaking the rules, buddy.
Now,
What are you doing there?
kids were learning that if you bruised an apple and threw it at the wall, it would explode because it was all mushed up instead of just throwing it straight at the wall.
Oh,
God.
man. First frag, fruit, grenades. Oh, boy.
Yeah, we had a different kind of prison life at OLPH. But that's explained in many other episodes. So but Rawl, I think besides Daniel Street, Rawl, I think is our most amount of guests that we've had have been rollers so far.
It's a pretty
I
big
mean,
school.
I went to Raw, so I
Yeah.
mention it every time it's mentioned. But
Yeah.
it covers all of everything north of Sunrise, basically, except for some that are Albany Avenues. But
Yeah. Okay, so what were you getting into as a kid? Were you always into reading and writing, even at a young age?
Not really. I would write a little bit, playing the video games that were very role play based, the Final Fantasy kind of games and all that. And I think my imagination was bigger than my writing skills. And so, yeah, I would definitely play with all my toys as my mother had company over. And my father tells me sometimes they'd have company over and they'd say, "What the heck is that sound?" It's like, "Oh, that's David, playing with his toys somewhere." It's like, Jesus, I thought it was like a little animal somewhere or something. But that was my imagination. And then as I got older, you start to write creatively. I think I still have some little free writes from when I was like 10 or 11 years old in my house. It's unbelievable. I look at it and I smile sometimes. So I did try. I started out pretty early.
Okay.
And I wasn't a big reader until I was at a Scholastic fair. And you remember those book fairs?
Of course.
Yeah.
of course,
I went to one and I bought this book that looked cool. It had this vampire with wings, and it was called Child of an Ancient City. And I started reading that book. And it was about a caravan in the Middle East going through forest area, and a vampire was hunting them. And it was scary. It was really intriguing. It was easy to read. And for some reason, that was the first book that I was able to read through in almost a whole day. And that got me inspired more to read. So, yeah, in a way, little instances started to get me to imagine more and throw it on paper more. So, yeah, it wasn't until high school that I actually started to really jot things down and write things down. Mr. Sullivan, the English teacher at the time, he was so critical for me. He actually noticed I was writing something in my free time, and he came over, and it was probably crap, but he inspired me so much. He said, "Wow, this is good. Look at you. Read, I want to read what you're writing here." And he would give me pointers. And honest to God, I think Mr. Sullivan, wherever he is now, he really got me motivated to make me think maybe I can actually do this for real. And that was it.
Also had Mr. Sullivan. That was 10th grade.
Maybe. Yeah, it was either 10th or 11th grade.
Yeah, I think that was 10th for me. And he also gave me a compliment. I remember after I wrote a paper, he said that I had an ease with the English language. Writing it
Ease.
anyway. If you've listened to the podcast, it's not speaking it.
Me either.
You
Actually.
get words.
But yeah, so that's something that sticks out about Mr. Sullivan for me as well. He was pretty supportive, I guess, for kids who could write.
It's incredible. It doesn't take much, you see.
Yeah.
It takes a little bit like, wow, look at you. You're doing great. I'm proud of you. And that's all a kid needs, even in his older adolescent stage. Helps.
And on the opposite side of the coin too, like if you say something insulting or like to kind of break them down, they can internalize that as well. And that could lead to a whole different path. So teaching it's a big responsibility sometimes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You have to be on your guard. You got to be there for the kids. The kids are the top priority. Everything you say, well, has an impact on them. You know, you got them for pretty much most of the day. So in a way, you're sort of their dad, their mother, in that instance. It's kind of a weird thing if you think about it. You're as a parent, you're trusting these adults to help raise your kid. And I don't take that lightly.
For sure.
The least you could do as an educator is not insult the child, you know.
I try not to.
Bare minimum, yeah.
I won't tell you what goes on inside my mind, please.
Of course.
So keeping it at high school, you were also acting in plays as well. I remember being in one or two with you as in the orchestra pit. When did that interest start for you?
Oh God, I don't remember. I know freshman I didn't do it. 10th grade, I think I gave it a shot. I think I was in chorus. I don't know how the heck I stumbled into these things. But I got involved in it, and it turned out to be something I really enjoyed. And I met a lot of good friends there. And it was usually, people would tell you going on the stage, you can get really nervous. And I had a really serious stuttering problem, actually. I was able to get around it through a lot of speech. But on the stage, I don't know what it is. I enjoyed it. I liked the limelight. I like to be up there and sort of use my imagination, like I was saying before, kind of act things out on the spot. It's fun. And I worked with some really, really talented people, as you remember.
Yeah.
I was just a little footnote compared to some of the great talent we had in the high school.
Yeah, I played in two of the musicals. I played in Man of La Mancha and Damn Yankees. Were you in both of those?
Man of La Mancha, Damn Yankees. Yep.
Yeah.
I was the little guy getting thrown around in Man of La Mancha.
I remember that, yeah.
That was my highlight. Oh, yeah, I was good at that. I think I got thrown into the well head first. That was a blast. And then, what was it? Damn Yankees. I was a Polish baseball player. I think I was getting thrown around there, too. Hey, what's going on here?
Yeah, I remember Man of La Mancha in particular, the music was not easy. And I was about to delegate my parts to two different people. But I kind of just clamped down and said, you know what, I'm going to do it myself. So that was definitely a turning point for me as well, getting my chops up as a drummer anyway.
That's incredible. I think we were really pushed in the arts in those musicals and plays. People got real shows in those years.
Yeah.
Were you also in Wizard of Oz when you were a senior? I think that was the musical that they did.
Wow, that was... Yeah, 12th grade. My goodness. So when I wasn't getting thrown around, I was the mayor of Munchkinland. Amazing.
There you go.
So much fun, though. Those are great memories, man.
So teenage years outside of school, what type of jobs did you have, if any, around town?
Oh, boy. My first job was at All Stock Auto Parts. How I got myself, again, I don't know how I stumbled into these things. That was my first job. All I remember doing was sweeping up this guy's cigarettes. This guy smoked just throwing the cigarettes on the ground. There you go, sweep it up. This is my job. This is it. This is my post-high school world, sweeping up this guy's cigarettes.
Oh, boy.
And, and then I was going through college and decided to apply to become a custodian in the school district. And I was a custodian through my teen years. into my 20s. That's kind of how I built up my bank account to pay for some college. So, and then, acting as a custodian in all the buildings. I went through all the elementaries, the middle school, the high school, cleaned those rooms. I worked in some day, worked in some nights. And then when I became a teacher, I taught in the same rooms that I was cleaning, starting off as when I was a teenager.
What is it like working in the rooms that you sat in, learning that perspective?
Yeah.
Seeing the school from the inside out on the other end of things.
Yes, that's a good question. Well, I'll tell you what, when I was cleaning the rooms, I was getting really good at the maintenance of it, and waxing the floors and stripping the floors and all that.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually got a little nervous. I was getting scared to actually be the teacher. I would have like some nausea before going in. So it wasn't like I would have this great Hollywood moment and say, yeah, this is what life is.
Uh-huh.
I clean the room and now I'm teaching the room. I didn't have that epiphany. It was, oh my God, I'm in the crap now. I'm in it. I got to start doing something profound here.
Cautious nervousness, though, right?
Yes.
So
Cautious.
You didn't have the Goodwill Hunting moment.
Hell no. I did not have the Goodwill. That did not happen to me. But I think a little bit later on down the line, when I would tell people I used to clean, and then as a teacher, when I would start having conversations with the staff of custodians, then people started to realize, oh yeah, that was the same kid that was cleaning those rooms. Now he's a teacher, and it started to hit me, like, yeah, this is happening. I can do this. And I started out.
Were the custodians like, oh, he's one of us?
I don't know. I really enjoyed working as a custodian sometimes. I met some incredible people. I met some real nut jobs too, don't get me wrong. But I met some people.
I was going to say, do you remember the custodian in Rawl when we were younger? The gentleman by the name of Al?
Al.
I think he was missing fingers. There was only one custodian in Rawl, as far as I knew. Whenever there was something, you would hear them call Al to wherever someone vomited or bled or whatever happened.
Poor Al.
But he was kind of an enigma.
Wow. Maybe he just existed in our imagination. I don't know. I don't
Right.
remember.
He was never there. He passed away 10 years ago to that day.
Oh my God.
It's like large.
Al was a fingerless ghost. Who knows?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wait. I think we have Al on right now. Al?
Oh, no.
So,
we summoned him. We said his name too many times.
That's right. I think he's in my mirror right now.
There was the cool custodian in high school too.
Nick.
Oh,
yeah.
Yes. I remember him. Yeah, he was great. He was something else, man. He was really good to me. He was really nice to me. When he was out and I would substitute for him, I look in, you wouldn't believe all the tapes all over the place, like scattered everywhere. He had tapes all over. But oh yeah, he used to go on tour with them sometimes. He actually knew those guys really well. Just pretty wild.
Okay, so that wasn't just a rumor about him.
No, that was the rumor.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, he actually did. He knew him. I don't know how well. But yeah, I don't think he was really good at his job. But he was a good person to me. He was good to me. I could tell you the insides and outs, I'll tell you that. He was good to me. A lot of them were really good to me. They were good people, and I showed them the same respect. One guy, he was a part-timer. He knew so much about history. He taught me some stuff, and I was going through school for history. So, you meet the best, the worst, and the in-betweens, and you learn a lot from that perspective, like you were saying, John. And then you become a teacher, and then you learn, all right, I got to learn a lot more if I'm going to teach these kids this material.
Sure. And where were you going to school at the time?
All right. Well, I started at Nassau Community College. I kind of enjoyed that experience. And then I made the dooming mistake of going to Stony Brook. Stony Brook, it's a very prestigious school, but I think I should have went to a more education-oriented college. But I went for history. And then my final school, I went to Malloy, and Malloy is where I got my dual certification in history, social studies, and special education. And then I did my student teaching in Lindenhurst.
Was history always the plan?
You know what? A lot of people ask, since you write books, you must have wanted to be
Right.
an English teacher, right? Wanted to be an English teacher. And the thing was, I liked the stories of history, of where we came from. And history is something sort of like an enigma when you're young. It's dates, it's people you don't necessarily care about, it's cultures you don't understand. It's events you have to pass on a test. And for me, I was okay with history. I didn't do very well. I was in an honors class. The only one that I was in was for history, but I didn't do particularly well in it. I passed by the skin of my ass. Thought I was going to say skin of my teeth, right? And then I think after that, in college, I started to learn a lot more that the world is much more connected than you think, and you need to know where you've come from. You need to know who you are and why things matter. And when you're teaching kids, you learn pretty quick. You learn pretty fast how important history is and how to make it exciting for them, to give them the idea of how important history really is. You want to understand why there's so many problems in the world, and you want to understand why there are so many beautiful things in the world. All the answers are in history, where we all come from, like why we're speaking English right now.
Yeah.
There's a reason why we're speaking English, and a lot of people in South America speak in Spanish. You learn. And then when you start to understand, you start to say, wow, all that sort of makes sense now. And I kind of like that. So then history sort of became the thing for me. And I love the ancient stories, and I like the Middle Ages, right? And that's where a lot of fantasy comes from, that type of mythology.
Yeah.
From the ancient world and the medieval world. So I guess I kind of like that a lot.
So, okay, student teaching. After that, where do you end up as a permanent?
Oh man, here we go. So I got a position in Lindenhurst. I worked as a substitute teacher. I think I had 3 leave replacements in 1 year. I was moving from place to place to place. I got a pretty good start there. And then after that, I got a job in Glen Oaks, Queens. And I worked in Queens for a while as a social studies teacher. And then from there, I moved on to Bensonhurst, Brooklyn, taught history there. And then I moved, where else did I go? I think I moved where I am now. So I moved to Woodstock.
And what ages were this? Was like middle school age the whole way through, or?
It was middle school. One school was actually middle high school in Glen Oaks. So that was middle school and high school kids. And that was a lot. That was like a baptism by fire for me.
Sure.
I had to get the kids to pass the regents. Oh man. One year, the reason I left that first school in Queens after I left Lindenhurst, the reason I left there was the school was doing really well, and I was learning how to teach, and I was really inspiring the students. And then they had the bright idea. It was like a private school sort of thing. The bright idea was, why don't we fire the content teachers and just put in a computer-based learning program for kids who are on the spectrum? Think about that for a second.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
So, it was unbelievable. And they kept me around to facilitate the computer-based program. And here I am. I'm going from helping kids try to pass the regents, social studies, to now facilitating them through a program. And the kids are just, it's not working. They're getting frustrated. And I said, I got to get out of here.
Yeah.
And that's what moved. I got out. I left. And, I've certainly bounced around. I used to have to take the MTA, and for one school, when I was in Bensonhurst, Brooklyn, I had to take the MTA, the LIRR, to Atlantic Terminal, Brooklyn. Then I had to take the subway train. I mean, my gosh, it was just such a heck of a commute from Lindenhurst all the way out there every single day.
That's deep into Brooklyn there.
Oh boy, something else. But I don't regret it actually. It made me who I am, I guess, right?
Sure.
That's the whole thing. You can't regret those things. This is who you are now. You learned from it. It didn't kill you, it made you stronger, sort of thing, right?
Exactly. It's not the destination, it's the journey, as they say.
And you know what? That's what makes a good story, right?
There you go.
The whole thing. No one wants to read a story where you're at the end already. You don't want to just see him or her at the end. You want to see the journey, the struggle. You want to try to relate to them. And that's all of us. We all have that kind of journey. You look at someone, you don't think that you know what they've been through. You think their life is great. You know, they're posted on social media, but you don't see how they got there. You don't see the hard work and the sacrifice they made. So I fully have understood that in my older age.
Okay, so at one point do you start work on your first novel?
Okay, my first novel, right? The Angels of Resistance.
As
Believe it or
there's
not.
seven altogether?
Yeah, well, technically nine,
Okay.
but the Angels of Resistance, it's a two-part series, and now it's just one. I was able to condense the two parts into one book. But ironically, we were talking about Mr. Sullivan. That story sort of mutated and it evolved into what became Angels of Resistance as it is now. And I published my first edition of that in 2005. So 5 years after out of high school, I published it, and I thought the story was great. I thought I wrote the great American novel, and it
At
was
23.
oh my god, yeah, 20. And it was a steaming pile of crap. You know, it had a good story, it had a character, but it wasn't developed well, and I thought I knew the ropes, and I didn't. And it took a lot of research and a lot of time and a lot of reflection and a lot of practice from that stage to say, look, this book deserves more than what I gave it. I got to give this a better shot. And I kept working on that book to make it better. I was reading other books, and I think that book now is the book that I'm most proud about. I think it came from a place of love and ambition and dedication and imagination. And my blood, sweat, and tears did not go unnoticed. And now it's a great book. It's won many awards. But if people could only see what that book came from, you know, I had to make a lot of mistakes before I learned how to write well.
So the book was already published once, and then you went back
Oh
and
yeah,
revised after it was already out.
yeah, I revised it. Writing that book was unreal. I was writing it on a computer, and the computer crashed and died. It actually, the motherboard or whatever you call it, burned.
Mm.
Everything inside was gone. So I had to write it again from scratch. I had nothing. I could go out.
Back then, this is before like clouds and all that kind of crap, where things are backing up automatically and all that.
You said it. So I decided, you know what? I'm going to outline first. Let me take this seriously. I'm going to outline on paper. And my grandmother, God rest her soul, she spilled coffee all over it, and I yeah, screwed up. So I'm saying, what is God telling me right now? Am I not supposed to do this? Is my life meaningless?
Yeah.
You know, all that stupid stuff. And then, you know, you're done sort of beating yourself down. And you say, you know what? All that was supposed to happen. There's got to be a better idea. I have to structure this better. So, yeah, I've revised it a lot, often. You know, sometimes I still go into it. I look and I say, you know what? Maybe that could be done a little bit better. But I think I'm happy with it now. But yeah, it's almost never perfect. And you'll never write something perfect.
Right.
But write something good from the heart, and it will be profound for someone. And if it could affect someone, fantastic. But you got to give them the respect of writing a book that is edited well, and the characters are written well. There's a lot of depth to it, There's a lot of high stakes, things that matter. So I learned along the way about that craft. I had to make a lot of mistakes, like I said, to get where I am now.
And as far as like promotion for the book, what did you do? Did you go out and do signings or?
You know what it is? I'll tell you what else. When I was young with that book, I don't think I had the confidence either. When you're humble, it's a detriment to yourself. I didn't want to get out there. I didn't want to promote my book. I was terrified of.
Also, again, to bring it back to the computer stuff, it's before social media, so that whole avenue is not even really there at that point.
You know, I didn't even think about that. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I just wasn't willing to do that. And I don't know what it really was. Maybe subconsciously, I just wasn't proud enough of it. I thought maybe it wasn't good enough. Don't know. But my promotion of it was not very good. And again, for me, I love writing. I love writing books. I love editing them. People usually tell you editing is the worst process. It's not really that bad. It isn't. It's the marketing of it.
Yeah.
And I learned that real fast. The marketing is a whole new art form. You can't act as a writer and market your work. You need to learn that craft as well, and how to do it. And I'm still not great at it. Sometimes I'm at work and people are like, "You write books?" I'm like, yeah. Like, I've known you for 5 years. I didn't know you write books. I heard it from a kid. A kid told me, you know. So I'm my own worst enemy sometimes that way. But God bless my kids. They are your biggest fan when they find out you're right and everything, and they want to get your books and they want to tell everybody about it. It's really nice. So I learn little by little. You know what? You owe it to others to get out there, because how are they going to read your work if they don't know where it is?
Sure.
They can't find it.
Right.
It's my fault. Got to get it out there.
And were you seeking out like other authors in your genre just to connect with and kind of network?
I did. And I think, like John said, social media was just coming around. And I was sort of behind on that as well. I think it wasn't until Comic-Con. I went to the Comic-Con and I got a booth there. And that was very overwhelming. But that's when I started to make connections with other authors and writers. And I learned a whole bunch. I met a lot of artists. It was such a great experience. And that's what I needed. I needed to be thrown into the pool to learn how to swim in that environment. And after that, I got real hungry. I got hungry to fix my material, to make it what it really deserves to be. I wanted to say I want to write a bestseller. And nothing I've written is what you categorize as a bestseller, right? But what is a bestseller? I mean, look at how many books, like 50 Shades of Grey, Cray, whatever the hell it is. It's written by like a 12-year-old writing, but it became a bestseller. So it's a whole new craft on that side too that I had to learn. Like, it doesn't matter how good your book or you think your book is. There's some beautiful books out there. You haven't read it though. Yeah. It's not a bestseller. You got to learn how to market these things. So yeah, I learned all that from other writers, from other artists. Yeah, I mean, I think you can never stop learning. Once you stop learning, you've admittedly gave up. You know what I mean? So you got to keep going, keep learning, look for the next outlet. It's like this is 2023. There's so many ways to get out there, even besides just social media. There's a lot of avenues. Like in Lindenhurst, I've written so many books as a local Lindenhurst, valedictorian of writing, you might say. And none of my books were in the library. I just never walked in there and said, here, take these, you know? And only recently, I went to Lindenhurst Library, I think about a week ago, and I said, hi, I'd like to donate these books. And they said, oh, we're not really taking donations. And I said, oh, well, I wrote these. I'm a local author. And they were like, oh my gosh, we'll take them. And they did. They took them, and they're going to be in a section in the library. And I thought, what the hell was wrong with me? Yeah. Why didn't I do that before? It's such a simple thing. And sometimes you sort of get in your own way. It gets loud, and it's the simplest solution is right in front of you.
Sure. And someone's going to see that and pick it up and read it. And
It
hey,
is.
someone who lives in my town wrote this. I could do this too.
Mm-hmm.
And so do you see like with your genre of books, do you see a big crossover with like the comic book graphic novel crowd as well?
I would like to. I really would. I know that as a youth, I really enjoyed graphic novels, right? A lot of kids enjoyed graphic novels because you get to read the book, but also you're experiencing the book. And there was a lot of Shakespeare novel stories, pamphlets turned into graphic novels, and I really enjoyed that. And I think there is, how do I put this? If I could make a graphic novel of my books, I would. It's not easy to do, but I think there is a market there. I remember reading a book about Spider-Man, and I said, well, this sucks, because I can't see Spider-Man, and
Yeah.
I can't see him swinging. What the hell is this? I have to imagine him now. And when you get older, you say, wow, maybe Spider-Man is meant to be seen. Maybe he's meant to be experienced. And in other characters, maybe my characters shouldn't be seen. Maybe they should be imagined by my readers. I started thinking about that.
With fantasy specifically, though, like, I guess it's a hard line to walk because it is the reader's imagination. Like if you read an adaptation, if you read a book that's been adapted to a movie after you've seen the movie, it almost ruins the book every time. The book is always better if you read it before you see the movie because you don't have it pictured in your head what it's going to look like, if that makes sense. Do you know what I mean?
I mean, how can you compete
Yeah.
with your own imagination?
You can't.
Right.
You can't. You're watching someone else's
Uh-huh.
imagination.
Right.
There's also like successful book franchises, like I'm thinking of the Star Wars universe. There's also like a whole book kind of phenomenon attached to the Star Wars universe as well that has kind of its own audience.
Right.
So it can be done.
But now they've kind of thrown that to the side, and now they just have their own canon with everything beyond that. But like you mean like the Knights of the Old Republic and that kind of stuff before prequels and all that stuff.
Right.
Shows of the Empire and
then fan fiction and all that.
But I guess to tie in what you were asking about the comic kind of thing, you've also developed a card game now.
Yeah, that I guess I'm sort of eating my own words here because there's art of the characters, art of my characters in the card game. That was something else. I love to make games as well, and I've worked about 12 or 13 years actually working on this card game, working with artists all over who are sort of up and coming as well. We sort of work together. And little by little, I was very patient to get the artwork for the cards. And, it's a very simple game, actually. It's almost like Magic the Gathering and Gwent, if you know the picture. It's kind of like
I don't.
Okay, it's okay. But it's sort of like a combination like that. And that's actually about two of my novels and those characters against each other. And yeah, it's pretty much just fighting each other with your cards and the values. If your value of cards is higher than your opponent, you win. So it's really just you're adding numbers up to see who's bigger, and you'll have like a critical strike, or you'll have an upgrade. There's a lot of fun things you can add to it, and the mechanics are pretty simple. It looks complicated, but when you play one round of it, it's pretty addicting, and it's actually pretty fun. I'm very proud of it. Thanks a lot for asking about it.
Yeah, not a problem, man. Of course.
Does playing your own game actually give you ideas for future stories?
What's funny now?
Ideas you wouldn't have thought of before coming to life through the game?
What happened? It's actually the opposite.
Okay.
If this makes sense. So of all the books I've written and all of the characters that I've created, I play in this card game and I'm thinking, man, it would be cool if that character was added to this game. That they would add a lot to this fight, or sort of give a different sort of dynamic to this mechanic of the game. I've written a lot, and I think I convinced myself that I'm done for a while. I've written a lot of work, and I have to respect it, like I said before. And I want to start concentrating on the marketing of it, getting it out there, getting it some credit, and that goes in with sort of taking a break. I do write some short stories every now and then. So you have an idea in your head, and you're not. If you talk to any creator, they'll tell you, also being a musician, you're not going to go to sleep with this in your head. You got to write it down somewhere before you pass out.
Yep.
So that's what I do. When I get ideas of something, I'll write it down somewhere, and if I think I have time, I'll start to write creatively. But I have this card game that I'm starting to promote, and trying to get the books in stores, getting it out through different means. And I'm feeling pretty good about it. I'm feeling very happy. I look at the book sometimes and I think, yeah, I did that. I wrote all that work, and I don't usually do that. Some people ask, you ever just sit back and look at all the work you did? And I really don't. I look at it and I say, yeah, I did that. I wrote that. I like that part of that story, and that was really fun. And I hope this person likes this book when she picks it up. But I don't have any ideas that are saying, look, you got to write this next novel. You got to write this next book. I think I've been able to convince myself. And I gave myself a little outlet. I said, if I do have ideas, I can write short stories and put them in a little compilation book or something fun like that. That's where I'm at right now.
So now, as far as like marketing the book and the games together, would game stores carry your book as well? Like kind of sell it alongside the game?
That's a good question. I actually played my card game once in one of those new sort of card game stores where you can go in, get a table, sort of play with your friends with the games that are there. And I actually did that up in Huntington and played with some people with my card game, and that was a real blast. And I'm thinking that's the next thing I'm going to be working on, what you just said.
Yeah.
Trying to get them to promote each other in a way. There was a new bookstore that just opened up in Huntington. And once I have the books in that library and they're in the bookstore, I'm going to try to then capitalize on that. But I've learned to be patient and sort of take my time, sort of evaluate the market, not to rush. Yeah. I used to rush. I want to get it out there. People need to see it. Well, you need to relax, take it easy. That's what I would tell myself. Take a look at it, get inside, play a couple of games, talk to the people, get to know them, get to understand the environment, the atmosphere. And that's where I'm at right now. But that's a really good idea.
And it seems like even though like everything's gone digital nowadays, like every town still has like a game store and a comic book store. That's something that people want to walk into and still experience. So
absolutely. Yeah. I mean, if you look at the movies now, if you look at the big blockbusters, it's a lot of these films.
Yeah.
Because people want to be entertained. They want to see that fantasy side. They want to escape this and see what
kind of epic storytelling.
Yes, sir. Exactly. So it's still there. It's still got a lot of power. People are always going to want to escape into something enchanting or something horrifying. It's just the way we are. We live pretty stressful lives, and we deserve to get out there and play a real fun video game, read an awesome book, watch a great film, TV show. So yeah, it's still there. And if you think about it, it's a business. Sometimes people say, oh yeah, you're into all that geek stuff. That geek stuff is worth a lot of money.
Huge
that's
market.
Big business we're talking about. That's I mean, these people who are making these movies and making these games, they're not just some nerds in a basement somewhere. These are people who understand the audience and the market. This is big business.
For sure.
I think when we were kids, it was big business too. It was just not as big as it is now.
Yeah, it was different. But so besides your own work, what are some books and movies and TV that are inspiring you now that you've been taking in?
That's a good question. Well, let me start by answering. I like to read a lot of new indie books from fellow writers. I like to see what they're coming up with. I like to give them an opportunity because, like I said before, they might have something fantastic and inspiring to read too. So I like to read a lot of those books. But when I'm not reading those books, it's sort of about things of history, things I didn't really know, some historical fiction. And if I'm getting into the fantasy world, I was on a tear with, I think I mentioned The Witcher a little bit before. The Witcher books really were so captivating to me. And then the video game was great.
Mm-hmm.
And Henry Cavill was such an outstanding Geralt. So that really had me. The Eastern European sort of Slavic characters and lore, I kind of enjoyed that. I think we're living in a time now where you can read the story and almost play it out, and because they're all sort of capitalizing on these big tales, these big things. I enjoyed the Game of Thrones. I know that's not the name of the books. Was it A Song of Ice and Fire?
Fire and Ice.
Song of Fire and Ice, yeah.
Yes. I'm not really motivated to read those because there's no ending. He hasn't finished it yet. I don't want to start and then be like, what's next? What is it coming out?
Yeah.
And the show ended sort of disappointing. Who the hell am I kidding? Extremely disappointing. But there's a lot of options out there. There's so much.
Yeah.
There's so much. I mean, you can even find games to play to sort of motivate you. There's so many video games out there that you could just make your own story. You could have your own RPG adventure. I think some people do that. Years ago, they played Dungeons and Dragons, and they used the story that they played with to write their own story.
Yeah.
I actually know a fellow author. I read one of his books. He wrote his book that way. He played an actual campaign with friends, and he sort of wrote the story down as they were playing.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of video games nowadays too have like a story mode that you can play. Even sports games, like they have the career mode where like, the player has a whole backstory and they're talking to their manager.
Yeah, your brother gets shot and then you get drafted into the NBA.
So it's all like storytelling. I mean, obviously because of the power of the programming of these games now, how sophisticated it's become. Like you could just live another life through a video game. Are you seeing that other authors our age and younger are taking inspiration from video games for their books?
I think so. I've seen some authors market their books using popular video game tropes and popular film. I think we're all little creators when we play these games sometimes. But if you think about it, going way back, we were little creators playing some board games too. So I think so. I know someone at work. She's a great person and she hasn't read in a long time. And I gave her one of my books for her birthday and it got her back into reading. But she hadn't read for a long time. She watched shows and all that other stuff.
Yeah.
But a lot of them say, oh, this was like Carrie or this was like this story. So believe it or not, you can relate a lot of outside world things, because that's what fantasy is. Fantasy should be fantastical, but just relatable enough that you can say, I can see myself in this world.
Yeah.
So sometimes you will market a video game or a movie or an actual board game. Yeah, and especially if that's how you were motivated to write it, other people might want to read it through that same motivation.
Similar thing with music too. I mean, like ever since the Tony Hawk games, like so much music has been discovered through video games. Like I can't tell you how many times over the years someone younger than me has said, "Oh yeah, I heard that song in this game." I was like, "Really? Okay."
You were absolutely
Guitar
right.
Hero too, yeah, all that.
Yeah, I remember playing a lot of those sports games. baseball and basketball games, and there was a lot of new up and coming artists because it was easy. That it was sort of cheap. They didn't have to pay them so much for the royalties.
Yeah.
And I definitely found those artists, those musicians.
Okay. So winding down, since you've spent a lot of time in Lindenhurst, we're gonna quiz you on some Lindenhurst knowledge. I'll hand it over to John now.
You're right. So we play a little game here called Best and Worst of the Hearst. We kind of go through some places or things in Lindenhurst and ask you what was the best and what was the worst. We generally start with pizza places. So to your recollection, what was the best pizza place in Lindenhurst, or is the best pizza place in Lindenhurst?
Oh, Jesus. I have no idea. I remember going to Imperial Pizza, and I said, "This is good pizza," and I'm pretty sure it wasn't good pizza. I'm pretty sure it was pretty bad. I think as a kid, you're just like, "Here's soda, and there's pizza, and there's my mouth." I don't think you think about it. Yeah, so I don't remember the best pizza. I think when I come over the house, we go to what is it? What's the place? It's on Geno's, I think. It's on Wellwood.
Yeah.
Yes.
Geno's
Yep,
Pizza.
across from Roll, basically.
Yeah. That pizza's been pretty good. And worst?
Okay.
You said worst pizza?
I mean, sure.
Oh, I think that's it. Imperial.
All right.
I think the last time I was in an Imperial Pizza, it was a Sicilian slice, and I bit into it, and I was like, "Is this like Play-Doh with sauce on it? I gotta get out of here."
Undercooked, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's how that relationship ended.
No bueno. Let's move to Chinese food.
Ooh.
Do you have a favorite Chinese food place in Lindenhurst?
I think.
Or where did your family frequent, if not favorite?
My family. This is the funny thing. Tang's was the best until it was the worst. Tang's was right. A popular Chinese place, and then it turned into a total nightmare. And my mother and father used to like to get the Lover's Nest. I don't know if you remember that, but it was like these fried noodles that were hardened together, and then they would put food inside. So it was like a bowl you could eat. And then little by little, it's like, this might be an actual plastic bowl we're eating right now. This might not be edible anymore.
I was going to say, hardened noodles don't sound appetizing at all.
No, it really wasn't. Yeah. And I remember towards the end of its reign, I remember picking up something from Tang's, and I walk in, and I thought, my brain is telling me that this is cat urine right now, and that I should probably get the food, bring it home, tell my family I smelled cat urine, and we shouldn't go back. That was my thought, and we never went back. And then Tang's eventually, closed down later on. Oh yeah, fond memory. And at least Tang's looked cool. It had like the cool tree and everything.
Definitely,
it was good for
some cool signage. Yeah.
What about playgrounds? Do you have a preferred playground?
That's funny. Where I lived, I was at the cross street of Spiegelhagen and Putnam Avenue, and there was actually a little playground by the train station, sort of hidden away. So, for instance, you could walk from my house to town hall, and there was a playground there that you could go to and frequent. But if you were lazy and your mom was like, "Look, we only have 20
But the one you're talking about is on the other side of the train tracks, though, right? Like
yes,
the town hall side.
Yes, that's exactly the one.
I guess kind of by where Arby's used to be.
Where Arby's used to be, yeah, exactly, in that area. There was a little playground there, really tiny, and not everyone would frequent it. But I found that so strange. Actually, there's houses here, and there's a little tiny secluded playground somewhere.
When I was for 2 years in elementary school, I lived on the other side of 109, kind of by the police department, and our school bus went to that neighborhood. We picked up everybody. Like, you were probably on my bus for those 2 years.
That's crazy. I mean, where my family still lives, where that playground is, if Sunrise Highway is closed off, you're done. You're not getting out of there.
Yeah,
There's
you can't
no
go anywhere.
exactly. So
No
if you're going
escape.
to do anything, go to the playground. Enjoy on the swing as the train
Hmm.
down and blows your ears out.
Yeah. Okay. How about a favorite deli slash bagel shop?
Deli slash bagel shop. Wow. Can't remember too many I went to except for the Lindy, the one right by the school there.
Mm.
It was so easily accessible, right? Right by
The only thing accessible, yeah.
that's pretty much it. I remember I went there to get something to eat and I came out. I don't know what the heck some guy screamed at me. It was a drive-by spraying of something
Oh
and
no.
they hit me. I don't know what the hell it was. They hit me with it. And I said, well, I guess that's that. I had like the Imperial Pizza moment. I'm like, yep, it was fun while it lasted.
Yeah.
That was the end of that. What about you guys? Is there a favorite deli place you would frequent?
Hmm. Brothers Deli was
Oh,
closest to me.
Ah,
and
brother.
the friendly deli on the way home from school. We would go there on our way to work at CRI, the one on Delaware, which I guess is also in the proximity to the high school.
What is that place now?
A pet salon. What else would
A
it
pet
be?
salon. Yes, that's right. Okay. And we usually ask, I don't know how in tune to music around here you are. We usually ask favorite band, but you can also substitute for the favorite musical that you performed in. So either or both.
All right, yeah, we'll do both. I remember I didn't really care too much about local bands or music until I started going to, the classmates' bands and their performances. I think the first one was the Waiting Process, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
I'm going way back now, long time ago.
Yep.
And then favorite musical, trying to think which one that would be. I don't know. I think The Wizard of Oz was the most ambitious. I think they did a fantastic job on everything, the music, the sets, the costumes. That was certainly my favorite. I mean, Lindenhurst itself. If you look at Lindenhurst, right, we're sort of like a special little hamlet over here. But as a history guy, this town has been through so much. I did research on this a while ago when I was teaching my kids about Native Americans. The first name of this land was called the Forsaken Land. And Native Americans would come here. It was like a little swamp, right? Because this place does get really flooded,
Yeah.
unfortunately, after Hurricane Sandy or Superstorm Sandy.
We always talk about all the weird drainage ditches in the residential areas here. Like they knew that everything flooded, so they built them into the town. Actually,
Wow, I didn't know that. It's crazy. And it wasn't until we got that rail line where people would live here and then go out to work in Brooklyn or whatever. But there's so many little. I remember I went on a trip to Gettysburg. Right here I am again as a history guy, and my family said, "Let's go into this little train museum," and we did. And we're looking at these trains, and this one train that had like little characters on it. It looked like Disney characters of a train. It was like a little model train. I'm looking at it, and it said, "Made in Lindenhurst, New York."
Wow.
That someone made these trains, and I thought, well, Lindenhurst is a really big train place at one point. It was a very popular stop, and so popular that some baseball players, Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig, would show up, and they played a team here, a local team, and they beat the crap out of them. I think it was 10-4. They won the baseball game, but at one time, Lindenhurst was a very hot spot, a place where people went, and I remember young. I mean, we're talking about best and the worst. I remember the Dollar Theater going to see movies that weren't in theaters anymore,
Yep.
but weren't on tape yet, and you can see it for like
Uh-huh.
nothing. Remember that?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Of course.
Then I remember walking across the street to Werner's Bowling, and you paid $3 to bowl. And the old man who owned it would say, I know you don't have to buy the shoes anymore. just take the shoe and you just wear them. And usually the shoes were like $1.
Yeah.
So you could play a bowling game for $4 total.
Mm-hmm.
I remember we had a lot of great spots, man, a long time ago.
Yeah. Your weekly allowance could get you an entire Saturday afternoon of activities.
Yeah.
At the slot car racing place or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
There was a mini golf place at one point too, like an indoor mini golf.
There was a mini golf place on Wellwood. Yeah.
and wines that I don't know where it is, but I go into a liquor store here, and there's wines imported from Italy, and they're bottled in Lindenhurst right here. I couldn't believe it. It's just there's so many hidden gems in this town, and we just sort of pass it right by, sort of thing. And I'm an older man now, and I'm just learning a lot of these things of what we had in the history of the place.
Yeah.
So, that's an interesting segment, best and the worst. I like that because it gets you to think about, what was really good here once and what doesn't hold up. Like the library itself, it was an awful library, and now it's so beautiful. It's absolutely gorgeous, the Lindenhurst Memorial Library.
Needed a facelift for sure.
Oh yeah.
That brings us to our last question, or statement, okay. I should say. If you had to describe Lindenhurst to somebody who's never been there, what would you tell them?
Wow. I would tell them to go to the village, park your car, and go to the village lantern and start there. Start at the village lantern, get a nice drink, eat the food, and then work your way out. Talk to people there and ask them, where's a good place to hang out in Lindenhurst? What's some fun things to do? Because Lindenhurst is a very family-oriented place, if you think about it. It's very family-friendly. It's always sort of been like that. We've had our problems here, but it's still very family-oriented. And that's what I would tell them. Come to the Village Lantern, because it's really fun. I think it's still fun, right? I haven't been there in a while, but I've always had a great time there.
Sure.
It was very German based, and that's a lot of the people who started out here. So that's what I tell them to do, and then work your way out. I mean, we have those festivals, right? Sometimes where you can go and you can sample food and drinks, and those, I would tell them that's what you should do. Come when Lindenhurst is welcoming you in, and you might be surprised.
Great. So let us know where people can find you on the web, where they can buy your books.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. Well, you can go to mamminabooks.com. It's my last name, books.com. So that's Mammina books.com. And all my stuff is there. My books, my games, some hats and merchandise and pillows and everything. I got a whole bunch of fun stuff. But thanks for letting me plug myself in.
Of course.
This was very fun. I didn't think I was going to reminisce so much, but you guys got me into it.
I'm in Farmingdale. Yeah. Okay. How about you guys holding it down in Lindy?
Yes, sir.
Oh, yeah.
So, let's bring it back to the roots. How did your family end up in Lindenhurst?
Honestly, I'm not really too sure because I wasn't born yet. But my mom lived in Georgia for a small bit, and then they got divorced, and then they moved back to New York, and that's where I grew up, mainly.
So I was going to say, I lived up the block from him when he was very, very young. So
yeah.
probably, I couldn't even tell you how old he was, but I know that he has two older brothers. Chad has two older brothers. His brother Sean is my age. And I think I became friends with Sean in first or second grade, which might have been when your family moved to Lindenhurst on Heathcote, right?
Right, which would make me like 3 years old, which, that sounds about right.
Right around then. So I can remember when I was in fifth grade, I was actually your book buddy when you were in kindergarten.
I remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's so funny.
What exactly? What is a book buddy?
I mean, we go into the class and sit with the older kids, sit with the younger kids, and read with them and play with them.
Oh, okay.
And I guess maybe they knew that I knew his brother, so I kind of knew him, so they paired us together.
That's funny.
So John is partially responsible for your literacy.
Oh yeah,
Or,
100%.
or lack thereof.
Lack thereof. Okay, so you're both rollers.
Yep.
Definitely.
So what were some of your? Well, first of all, what did your parents do for a living?
My dad was an iron worker, and then he like hurt his back on the job, kind of retired early, like 40s or something like that. And then he taught free yoga on the beach in Long Beach for a while and just did that on workers' comp. And my mom sold real estate.
So that's another thing I can remember being young with going with your mom and your brother like yoga lessons in Amityville.
Yeah.
And like we would fuck around and put fruit in the kids' shoes and stuff like that and throw stuff at the car dealer door. But like, this is back 92, 93 when yoga wasn't like a very popular thing at all, you know?
Oh yeah, yeah. So both my parents were actually into it late 60s, early 70s. And they helped like build that place with a lady that came from India, helped her write a book. So that's been like a part of my life since I can remember.
That like forgive me if I'm wrong here, but for some reason in my head I have it like your mother was like a practicing Hindu or something then? Is that correct?
Yeah, I guess it's like Buddhism, really.
Gotcha.
Yeah. It's basically like yoga and Buddhism.
Uh-huh. But I remember like that was cool to me when I was younger. No one else's, parents were on that kind of shit.
Yeah, not at all. And then like as I got older, I kind of rebelled against it. I was just like wanted to be the complete opposite. And then it kind of came like full circle later on,
My mom taught some yoga too when I was younger. But she also taught step aerobics, which was very in style in the 80s and early 90s.
That's awesome. Yeah.
She was right on the trend there. Cool. So what are some of your first memories just of being out and about as a kid, first days of school, all that?
First days of school. I remember, let's see, not too much. I remember like going in early before school, William Rawl, and being super excited to play dodgeball before school started.
So
I would just go in and I'd be like pegging kids like 7 a.m. like just so psyched.
There were intramurals before school where if like your parents worked early or something like that, you would get dropped off and like play whatever gym games in the gym before school started. And I also did that, and I'm sure Sean did that too.
Right.
Yeah.
You're just like a maniac at like 7:30 in the morning, dripping sweat before school.
Yep.
Like
Okay. So were you always just super athletic as a kid?
Yeah, I think probably like naturally, like my dad, I think, was athletic, but having two older brothers constantly like challenge me, play basketball with them. I was kind of like their dummy, like just used for anything. Right. So that kind of made me, I could basically do anything because
toughened you up a little.
With them. Yeah, exactly.
So when does skateboarding kind of come into play?
Well, my oldest brother Ram actually skated like I think it was in the 80s or maybe not, probably 90s, something like that. It was a while ago. And he would like fire me down the driveway, sitting down on the board when I was like a baby. So I kind of like had it looming in the background, but I didn't really start on my own until I was like 14, 15, kind of late for skateboarding.
Yeah. So early high school.
Yeah, maybe ninth grade, eighth, ninth. No, probably eighth grade. Because I got left back in 7th or 8th grade, and that's when I started skating, basically.
Okay. And so is that like part of your friend group? Like, were they all little skate rats as well?
Yeah, you get out of school and just lurk around town, posse of kids following, just trying to find skate spots.
Were you guys hanging out at like RST and stuff then?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I rode for RST. That's funny you remember that. And they had like a little mini ramp in the back of the shop too, which was like the sickest thing when you're a kid. Yeah. And the Lindenhurst Youth Center. Yeah. Little mini ramp too.
Yeah, we talk a lot about, back in the 80s and 90s, like, Lindenhurst had a lot of empty lots where there would just be dirt hills and things like that. But the same thing with like empty parking lots. Like, I grew up right next door to the Knights of Columbus Hall, and some kids would always be like building a little like half pipe that would go off the wall, and you would see all the wheel marks on the wall from kids trying to, get their tricks off. So there was just a whole lot of that, just there's something to be said for having a lot of empty space just to like do whatever with, and having the freedom to do that.
For sure. Knights of Columbus actually moved to Pecan Street, and I lived like right next door, so I'd meet my friend there every day and skate in Knights of Columbus parking lot. We had a contest there, like
Yeah.
To give context to people that are listening that might not know what RST was, it was basically a baseball card store that had moved around to a bunch of different spots on Wood Avenue. And I guess around the time that like the Tony Hawk games were popping off, they started selling skate stuff. I don't know what really triggered that with that guy there, but they also had like used records and music in there. You would go in there and it would basically smell like weed all the time. And there were like some blind sweatshirts and stuff on the wall. And I guess someone built a ramp in the back of that spot eventually.
Yeah. Which is crazy because it wasn't like a skate centered shop, you know what I mean?
No,
so
not at all.
Cool,
it was
though.
like all music and sports cars and trading cards and stuff. So very cool of that guy to get on board with that. Give kids a place like that to go.
RST at one point was on Hoffman, like just
so it was on the corner of Hoffman, of Wellwood over there, and then it moved to the other side where that Made in New York store was eventually, which is like Hermana's now or something like that over there. Then it was on the other side where Musicland is, and I think that was its final resting place.
Yeah, they would make they made like shop decks too, and they'd give them out to the kids and stuff like that. Yeah, RST held it down.
I guess that was my question. What is like being writing for RST? What did that mean? He just gave you boards and stuff?
Yeah, I don't know if they charged to skate the ramp. I was so young, like everything was kind of a blur. But yeah, he was hooking me up with like those decks, and I got to skate the ramp whenever I wanted.
Nice.
Which definitely influenced me because now I like that's all I skate is mini ramp basically. Yeah. You know, so that and the youth center, those two ramps. You know, a lot of people don't have access to those like around the country, or I had two right next to me, so good base.
And so what else like is just as far as like influence, like were you reading Thrasher magazine, and like were you like picking up skate videos like the Big Brother videos and CKY and all that stuff?
Yeah. So my first video was this old one called Propaganda. It's like an old Powell video, super raw. I love that. So I got that from my brother. And then so that was like all I knew. And then once I started meeting people in Lindenhurst, like skating with them and stuff like that, and I started buying like, Thrasher, Trans World, stuff like that. And like YouTube wasn't out yet, so it was just the magazines.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I was a terrible skater, so I gave up pretty quick, but I did love those videos. I thought they were hilarious, just.
Oh, yeah.
They're obviously amazing. It was the dawn of Jackass and all that as well. That all came from,
CKY.
From that world. Yeah. Cool. So we're getting into high school now. And now as far as like the people you're hanging out with and whatnot, like I know obviously like the skate world and like the underground music and punk rock and hip hop world were all combining at the time as well. Were you getting into that as well? Were you going out to shows, and was that like all combining for you?
It's weird because like all of my best friends and everyone I know goes to shows and stuff, and I just never got into that for some reason. I just stayed like dead set on skating. But like every single person I skate, like Jack Barthelson and like just that whole crew of people, they all everyone was going to shows and stuff, and I don't know, for some reason I was just only skating.
And so by that time, like, were you really like setting your sights on it as a career?
Yeah, like not like I wasn't super focused or anything, but I had like the pipe dream as a kid. It would be nice. I wasn't like super aiming at it, but
pipe dream.
Yeah.
What is that? So we talk about a lot how like the Tony Hawk games are like a huge jumping off point for skating to explode everywhere. And like before then, if I'm 5 years older than you, there were literally like 3 kids that skateboarded in my grade the entire time in high school. And then those games came out, and it seemed like every single kid probably got a skateboard for Christmas that year. What was the skating scene like on Long Island at that point, like around your age? Because I think around that time is when like Special Sauce opens and things like that, which gives kids a little bit more of a place to go. And I don't know when Chapman opened in Babylon or anything like that. And Bunger's always been around.
Yeah.
There's that place farther out on Sunrise too, 54 or something. It was I don't know if that's Oakdale.
I don't remember.
Anyway.
Might have been before my time.
It was a little further out.
Like,
Chapman's good. Chapman's been around for like 30 years. Yeah, Special Sauce was a huge influence on the community.
Yeah.
So many kids skated back when I started. It was so popular.
Yeah.
Everyone, I remember like I was just fascinated as I got older watching everyone like quit, trickle off and stuff. And I was like so obsessed. I was like, how could you quit skateboarding? Like, I was just so obsessed. But obviously, it's like not sustainable, kills your body. It's like it's practical for people to stop. You know what I mean? But at the time, I was just obsessed.
But also, you're saying like the ramps at RST and the youth center must have been huge because before that, like the 3 kids I knew that skated would go to the rail on the side of the library or like loading docks behind every supermarket or shit. Like those were the spots to go skate, I guess, before they were ramps.
Yeah.
Or,
Yeah, those are my two of the top spots. We hit the loading dock behind the post office. Yeah, the library, little handrail back there.
Yeah.
Church. Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like, you're a little bit younger than us, but not much. When we were younger, like it was very intertwined with music. And it was just like, if you're a punk kid, you skate just because that's almost like your transportation around town. You're just like, pick up a skateboard. Like, it's just a way to be a little extra punk,
Right. You kind of have the same like attitude and outlook too,
And it was not a legitimate sport back then. It was, it was like a renegade thing.
Right.
So it was cool to be a little badass on a skateboard.
Skateboarding is not a crime t-shirts and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it was, it wasn't, I was like at the cusp of like, it was still not cool to be a skateboarder,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So like post high school, did you go to college?
No. I got left back twice and then I just dropped out.
Okay.
Yeah. And I just moved to California. You guys know Nick Sassa? He was like my best friend. He was like, me and him were like, just skated nonstop. We're like the 2 main skaters in Lindenhurst, basically, We just took it as far as we could take it. And yeah, he was out there. So I went and visited him and yeah, no school for me though.
What part of Cali were you in?
It's like Huntington Beach that first time.
Okay.
Yeah.
And is that like where you got a little bit more serious about it as far as like, I just want to take this as far as I can?
Yeah, definitely. At that point, I was starting to get a little old, like dropping out of school. Like if you're dropping out,
there's no safety net. Yeah, you have to do it. Yeah.
Right. I was just like, all right. I was like begging my parents, I don't want to go to school. I want to skate. I'm cutting class anyway.
What were some differences between skating Long Island versus, Huntington Beach?
Warm weather.
That's a huge one.
Smooth. Yeah. I've realized that as I gotten older, it's just a huge advantage of like 5 months of warmth.
Yeah.
Winter, you're just like miserable here.
Sure.
Like it's dark early, sucks the life out. Like if you're skating all year, you're just getting much, much better. Yeah, just smooth concrete because you're not dealing with like as much of the elements, snow, all that type of shit.
Yeah.
And it's just more normal there. Just way more skaters and I think it's in some like schools and stuff. Like it's just like a normal thing.
And that kind of inspire you to work harder just because you're seeing better skaters out there and just people who do it more often.
Yeah, the dream, like as a kid from New York, is like you want to go to California. That's where the pros are, the companies are. So you just like, so you get out there and you're trying to do, best tricks you can. Basically,
and were you starting to get in contact with companies and like get sponsored, or how does that work?
Trying to think of the timeline. Sassa rode for a company, my friend Nick. So he got me on the company he was riding for, but nothing too serious. When I came back, I worked at Special Sauce for a while at skate shop we brought up.
Yeah.
So that was cool. And then, like when you work at a shop, it's easier to get sponsored.
Okay.
Because the companies want to like have accounts and stuff, so they hook up the rider, like the riders, kind of butter them up a little bit.
Right, you're talking to the vendors, kind of like you have an in a way.
Yeah. So
how long were you in Cali altogether?
That first time, not long, just like a couple months.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just got a little taste of it.
Yeah, a little taste, exactly.
Okay. So you get back to Long Island and you're working schmoozing with the different companies at Special Sauce. So like, are you competing at this point?
I just always hated competing. I just never liked that aspect of skating. So I just, yeah, stayed away from it. I would always be out in the streets, like filming video parts, making videos with my friends, things like
Okay.
that. Um, yeah, contest just wasn't my scene though.
So okay, so it was more like a kind of like a solo venture for you.
Yeah, I mean, no, well, I'd go skating with like friends all the time. Now it's more solo as I'm
Yeah.
older. But when I was young, yeah, I was always with, you know, friends. Basically, I have like a group of like 8 kids. And you all go out and just find the best spots, try to film a video for like a year and take all the best clips and then compile it into like a 20-minute
Yeah.
video. So we did that like a bunch of times throughout, I don't know, like my whole 20s basically. I don't know.
And were you releasing that stuff online or?
Yeah, yeah, we had a premiere I think at the Babylon movie theater. It's pretty big, couple of hundred people there, and like sometimes we do them in bars in Babylon and stuff like so.
Was what's his name? John B. involved in any of this? Regino?
John Virgino,
Yeah.
I skated with him a lot because yeah,
I know he filmed stuff and he worked at Sauce for a while.
yeah, yeah, he's been in some of the videos for sure. He's part
Yeah.
of the crew. Yeah, John B's the man.
And did you get to know any other pro skaters at the time, like any bigger names?
Yes, but not any that you guys might know. Just like they're popular in the skate community, but like no one like super, popular.
Gotcha.
But yeah, in California, it was like you show up to the skate park, it's hard not to run into pros there. It's like completely different than here.
Yeah. They were kind of like just amongst the people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. So moving forward now, you did a thing where you went and did a trick in each of the 50 states.
Yeah. Yeah. So
what led up to that and how did that come to be?
Yeah. All right. So basically I kind of got into drinking like a lot because I dropped out of school, I got injured, and I wasn't skating as much. So it was easier, like 25, 26, hanging out with girls, going to the bar and stuff. It's easier to just talk about skating and hang out at the events and stuff, kind of mess around here and there.
Yeah. Well,
So
by 26, you're kind of over the hill as far as a skater goes already. Yeah.
Right. So I started like kind of going down that path, just like drinking more and more. And just kind of got dark. Like I was just like nothingness, what life's about. Like, why am I, what am I doing? Like that type of shit. And drank for years. Didn't want to be a part of the system or society. Just like I'm not about it. I'm just nothingness and drinking. And then got 2 DWIs. And that's what kind of sparked like, all right, something's got to change, And then once I got sober, started doing YouTube just to like have something to do, like make videos, have something to focus on. So that was like a huge, what would you say, like catalyst or just something for me to channel my energy to something good.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what was that experience? And what year was this?
I think like 6 years ago.
Okay.
Wow.
So can talk a little bit about that experience, like what did you discover and like how grueling was it to put that together?
Oh, it was brutal because I had I was against technology. I was just like, I was saying that whole like anti-society thing. I like took it to the extreme. So I no cell phones, no Facebook.
Trying to be off the grid completely.
None of that stuff. I hated it. I thought it was like an ego scene, people talking about themselves and like all that shit. So I just didn't use it. And then now I'm starting YouTube. I'm like, you know what? I hated this thing so much. Let me try out the internet. Let me see what it's all about. So I get the phone. I do it. And it was like such an uphill battle because I knew nothing. Like I didn't know a single thing. So, but I had nothing else to do.
Sure.
I was like dead sober. So I had all this energy to learn. So first year was kind of tough, but I just did it a lot, like a ton. I would like daily upload, just make videos every single day. So you do something like at that pace and it's like hard to not get good at it,
Sorry, going back a little bit. At what point does the skate park at Tanner Park get built? And did you have any involvement in that?
Yeah. Me and Nick Sassa, we petitioned. Shit, I don't know. I don't even know how old we were, but I think 2002 or 2004 is when that park opened. Okay. So we petitioned and got it open, did like an opening day demo and stuff like that. Took a picture with Steve Malone
for the local community to have something like that there.
Yeah, 100%. And I didn't even realize it when I was a kid. It was more of like, I just, we want a skate park.
Of
Like we're getting
course.
kicked out of spots, but now looking back, I see how it kept me out of trouble, all the kids it kept out of trouble, like the people progressing. Like,
Yeah, for sure.
had a huge impact on the community. I had no idea though until I got a little older.
I didn't even realize there was a skate park there until a couple of years ago. I was like, oh, that's
Yeah.
cool. Yeah.
I actually just finalized that they're going to rebuild it. I like petitioned and got them to build a brand new cement park there. So they're going to like wipe it out and just rebuild it
It's
probably
been
by the
20
end of the year.
years, so it's got to be falling apart now, I'm assuming.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what I'm telling them. I'm like, you guys are, throwing up like lights on the baseball field for $800,000. Like, throw us a bone. Let's redo the skate park. Like, you got like 5 different disciplines that go there, like skating, BMX, rollerblading, scooters. It's, it gets used. So,
Were there any kind of problems with like getting like permits for it and whatnot, just because of like the possibility of injury and
yeah,
how dangerous it could be if you're not protected?
100%. And then there's the side of like when I was growing up, like when we were younger, it wasn't accepted. It still kind of isn't. Like people associated with like bad attitudes and trouble, and the older people that are in office, like 50 years old, they're still looking at skating that same way. So it's tough to get stuff moving,
So yeah, it took a little talking them into it.
Yeah, exactly. I'm so persistent. I would just show up to the office like every day, just hassling them with petitions, get things signed. Like that's what it takes, though.
Yeah.
They basically shoot people away all day. That's their job. Everyone wants something, and if you just show up nonstop, like, all right, we gotta get this guy.
Who actually designs and builds it? Because I'm sure there's nobody working for the town of Babylon that knows dick about skateboarding.
Yeah, no. So they originally just like a skate park company, prefab design, probably out of a book or something.
Gotcha.
This time I was involved the whole entire process.
Okay.
So I was like picking all the ramps and trying to keep it like a somewhat similar feel. Yeah. So it's good to have a hand in it because, they don't know what they're doing.
Have you been involved in any other town skate parks opening? Like I've seen like you posted stuff like there's one in Brentwood and maybe one in Mastic too that opened or something, right?
Yeah. I had no part in Mastic. Brentwood, they were having trouble. All right, so we had it's called a DIY spot where we built our own stuff and they wiped it out like years ago. I think it was like 8 years ago or something. So everyone was pissed. So like the local skaters of Brentwood pushed for this park, and then it kind of got sidelined. So right at the end there, I kind of just like, I used what I'm good at. I'm good at like pushing people and kind of like, directing traffic. Like, all right, we got to do this. We got to make this happen. So, yeah. So that one got built and is now open since like a month ago.
Nice.
And I was going to ask, like the legitimacy of skateboarding, like becoming an Olympic sport and the X Games and all that and whatnot. Is that making it a little bit easier of a sell for you to get people to build skate parks and like have more facilities for skaters?
Yeah, I think so. Like it could only help. And then you got things like, it's just like huge on like Instagram and the internet, stuff like that. Like the overall general popularity is growing. Yeah, the Olympics for sure is just like this, like the gold standard.
Of course,
so when you're pitching to people, it's like, hey, the kids need to have a place to practice to be in the Olympics.
Yeah, you could have a future gold medalist right here in your neighborhood. Yeah, for sure.
That's what the town wants to hear, like something like that, But then you got COVID when everyone was just left to their own devices and didn't know what to do with themselves, and skateboarding like rose to the forefront as like this mental health kind of thing where you could focus and have a hobby and like do something.
You could be out in the fresh air.
Yeah. So that's kind of another like element I use when I'm trying to pitch a skate park, like the mental health side.
Yeah. Okay. So that brings us more to the present day now. You're going out on another adventure soon. You talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So March 24th, I'm going to be pushing across the country 3,000 miles, coast to coast.
Now, what sparked that idea in your head?
Honestly, it was like an evolution because I've been talking about it for like 2 years. So I like my cousin, we bullshitted about skating across the country, like Italy, like something skinny, you know?
Right.
It was kind of, and then after like months going by, COVID happened, we couldn't fly there. And I'm just like toying with this idea. And I'm like, look, research and stuff. And it just kept evolving and evolving. And I was just, I don't know, just the idea. Whenever I get an idea, sometimes I just get like hung up on it. I'm like, I have to bring that to life. You know, it's just like, it seemed like a cool experience to be out there solo for 2 months, you know, in nature, like meeting people.
And strictly on your skateboard, no driving at all?
Yeah, the whole time. Yeah. So it's going to be a Guinness World Record. So I can't, like, I have to stay on my skateboard.
Okay.
Yeah.
So are there like strict guidelines that they give you?
Yeah, I gotta make like a logbook. I gotta have people sign it that I meet, stuff like that. Witness book, GPS. Like I had to get like a watch to GPS track me like professionally and stuff like that. It's kind of annoying actually, but
Has this been done before? And it's like a time record you're trying to beat, or you're just trying to be the first one to do this?
Someone's done, like people have done it. I think whether they got recognition or not.
Gotcha.
But I'm pretty sure most of them kind of had like friends with them, or they picked up their board. I got to ride a little bit of the way. They skated. You know, one guy did it with like 4 people, and he would skate 20 miles, and then his friend would hop in and skate 20 miles, and they like almost relay raced it the whole way. You know, so I don't know, like technically, like Guinness is giving it to me to set because technically, like, one's really done it like logged, you know.
Gotcha.
So if you're
I'm sure
if you're going solo without renting a car or anything like that, what do you pack for a trip like this?
Basically nothing.
Just a backpack. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, you ever hear of a Camelback?
Yeah.
So that for water, and those aren't that big.
No.
Yeah.
So I'm fitting the outfit I'm wearing now, and one other outfit in the bag.
Here you go.
Some extra socks, and then bare essentials like deodorant, lighter, toothbrush. And
need to break some extra parts for you in case of emergency breakdown.
A knife, extra wheels, extra bearings, extra hardware. I've been like obsessing over this for months. So I wake up every day and I'm like, what does this list need? You know, I'm like adding stuff.
Sure, yeah. So what's the routing going to be like?
So I had to download this app that basically it breaks it into like stages. So it makes it into like days for you basically. So each day is going to be about a 50, 60 mile skate.
Okay.
Every single day.
So if anyone's following you on social media, they could see that you're kind of, I guess, prepping for that now, doing these long skates every day. So you can get used to that.
Yeah.
Get your cardio up or whatever you got to do for that.
Yeah, I'm building my muscle. Yeah, I just did 60 miles like right before this call, basically.
And how long does that take you, usually?
If the ground is smooth, I can do about 10 miles an hour. So it took me 6 hours to do 60 miles today.
Okay.
And so, 50 miles is like what people would do to organize a big fundraiser for one day.
Right.
And they'd be destroyed, and they'd advertise. You have to do that like every single day for 2 months straight to do 60 days.
So is there any sort of like self-care plan too, like to keep yourself kind of like fit for the journey and not burn out?
Yeah. Well, I mean, since I've gotten sober, like I progressively have just been getting naturally healthier and healthier, focusing on what I eat. I quit smoking. Like it just kind of was a natural evolution. Sure. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Smoking like 2 packs a day is not gonna work skating across the country. Started just eating better, trying to eat more like high protein stuff to build muscle so my, legs are strong. Yeah. That's really it though. I mean, I've been skating for 25 years, so I'm kind of prepared for that. Like I've been pushing around the city for like my legs are like tree trunks already. Yeah. So I'm just like really fine tuning it at this point.
I was going to say, any concerns about weather or anything like that? You might end up having to skate in the rain or some shit like that.
Yeah, it's gonna suck. I'm really concerned about time, and I don't want to like take days off really. So if it rains, I'm probably just gonna put plastic bags on my feet
Right.
and just push. It'll suck if my feet are just soggy all the
Yeah.
time. Like after that, my shoes will be wet. But yeah, I think I'm gonna just push through the rain and like change my bearings after that.
And you're gonna be filming this the whole time?
I'm gonna try to daily vlog the whole time. We'll see. I don't know how long these days are gonna be. Or like, I could do 60 miles here at Captree. It's nice and smooth, and but when you're skating up a mountain, 60 miles
Yeah.
might be a little different. 60 miles in the desert, it's like, so we'll see how much, but I'm going to try to make videos every day.
Are there any cities you're looking forward to hitting that you haven't been to yet?
I've been honestly, most of them. This trip, I'm not even focused on like anything leisurely. I'm just skating, like
getting it done.
I'm in the zone.
Yeah.
60 miles a day. Like I push, I don't take breaks. Maybe like if I finish the day early. A bunch of people in Phoenix reached out to me, like 3 different people of backyard mini ramps. So if I finish early, like I'll try to maybe finish early that day and like do some things. I'm more like excited to meet people than go see something,
Right.
I just like, even if it's just like a random on the side of the road somewhere, like some weird guy in some small town, like I just love those interactions,
Yeah.
So what comes after that? Like once you skate across the country, what's next?
Oh, I haven't even thought about it yet. I still got so much. I mean, let me see. Yeah, I don't know. I haven't really put too much thought into it yet. Once I finish this, I'll probably focus on that.
Okay, so I guess bringing it back to Lindenhurst, you want to do a little best and worst in the hearse with Chad?
Sure.
Nice.
Yeah.
So every episode we go through a list of a bunch of different crap in Lindenhurst. Ask you which is the best and the worst. We've had a few people message our Instagram account and ask us to add a few things to this, so we're gonna throw them into the mix. But we usually start with what was the best pizza place in Lindenhurst?
Best pizza? It's a good question. Hold on, let me think. Pizza. All right, a lot of notables. I'm gonna have to go OG Spazos.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now that may be Kopek technically, not Lindenhurst, the OG Spazos.
Oh yeah. Okay.
But we'll accept it. It's Linden Peg, right?
I mean, they migrated to Lindy. They're kind of like a hybrid.
Of course.
We've adopted Alberts, so we'll go with OG Spazos too.
If Alberts is a part of Lindenhurst, I mean,
right,
100% out. That's my favorite local pizza for sure.
There you go. So, as a listener, John Kelly had suggested, where's the best place to get beer illegally when you were underage?
All right, let me think back. This is gonna take some digging. Hold on. Oh, man.
He had actually said the best beer distributor, but I like mine better.
Yeah, I think it was, the 7-Eleven on Green Street, because I lived right up the block from it, so I'd just chill on the side over there and just wait for people in.
The Petro King or the Coastal on Strong and Hoffman was the spot, in my recollection.
Or this is very close on the border, but Happy Times.
Oh yeah, yep. That's up the block from where I am right now. Yeah.
Oh wow.
That dude used to hook me up. All of our friends, like he would take care of the
smoke shop across from the smoke shop.
Yeah, exactly.
What else? Oh, best diner. That was another one suggested by John Kelly.
Best diner.
I mean, there's only 3 in the town, so you get a slim pick.
There's only 3, right? I mean, how could you not say South Bay?
It's the fanciest by far.
I think the food's the best there. But I used to always go to, what was the one, was it like Pecan or something, like right over there? What was that? Lindencrest. That was like the one I'd go to the most.
Right down the block.
Yeah.
We were all cheap, so I think that was a better one to go to if you have less money, right?
Yeah, I'm going Lindencrest, final answer.
Okay.
Final answer. Bagel store.
Bagels and Bialys.
There you go.
Yeah.
And do you have
they still hold strong, I think, too.
Do you have a favorite hangout spot? Just anywhere you would hang out in Lindenhurst.
Now?
And I mean, no, whenever. But let's just say in your rambunctious years, pre-sobriety.
Let's see. I mean, I can't even. Oh, the gazebo.
Okay.
The gazebo was iconic. The forest there, everyone would meet there. Yeah, that was 100%. They're like firemen's, you know.
Of course.
Yeah. I work at Ruby Soho's now.
Okay.
So for nowadays, I'm always hanging out there.
There you go. Shout out Chef
Which
Joe.
has been cool because I'm just seeing all these like Lindenhurst people that moved in, people that never left, like friends. It's been cool.
Yeah, it's kind of a full circle thing because, like, when you're a kid and like especially a teenager, like everyone's got a job in town and you could just go, and your one friend works at CVS, your one friend works at Friendly's, et cetera, et cetera. But now our friends are owning businesses in town. So we can go walk to town again and see our friends there and, maybe get some free shit.
That's funny. I can't even think about that. That's funny.
Free shit that we're allowed as opposed to just, stealing.
Right.
But
yeah.
And I know you said you weren't really deep into the music thing, but are there any bands from Lindenhurst that you could say are your favorite?
Let's see. Maybe Rose Parade.
Okay.
From Lindy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool band.
How about you?
Mine is Mind Over Matter, and I think John's is Silent Majority.
Silent Majority, but shout out to Lethal Weapon, JJ and Rom. Hip hop in Lindenhurst is a real thing.
That's true.
Yeah.
They held it down for a while. Damn.
Yeah.
Very cool. All right, so I guess that brings us to our closing question. If you could describe Lindenhurst to somebody who's never been, what would you tell them?
Like in a word or a sentence, like whatever
you want to put it.
Yeah.
We've gotten very wildly different answers from everyone. So
yeah, that's tough. I'll just answer it about how I've been talking about it recently. Like, I didn't realize the incredible amount of like talent that Lindenhurst has. And like the other day I went to a show and I was just like, holy shit. Like I didn't realize how many bands there were. And like it's just an unbelievable scene in this town that I wasn't really paying attention to. Like I knew like this guy, so it's just cool to see that scene thriving. I don't know if that really described Lindenhurst too well, but I mean, I feel like it's been an important part of Lindenhurst for a long time.
It definitely does. And I think skating relates as well, because I forget, it was Spike Jones or somebody like talked about how skaters make great artists as well, because they're always trying to top their last thing. Yeah. And also, like, you go and you see a parking lot, whereas a normal people would see somewhere to park their car, you see a playground. You look at the world differently. So it relates to art in many ways. It's a similar thing.
There's driving.
Yeah,
sure.
And also half the people in these bands skate also where I skated with them, So it is very intertwined.
Yeah. All right. So let everyone know where they can find you online and where they can contribute to your trip.
Everything is just Chad Caruso. Pretty simple. You type that in and I'll come up. Instagram, YouTube, 2 places I'm most active. Started the GoFundMe to raise money for the trip and to raise money for charity. Like 25% of the money goes to a charity called Natural High. Basically, like, encourages kids to find a passion and focus on that rather than like getting into drugs and drinking, stuff like that. So, yeah.
And that'll be running the entire time, the duration of your trip?
Yeah, that'll run the whole entire time until I'm done.
We'll definitely post links to that on our socials and all that.
Absolutely.
Nice. Thanks.
No problem.
I appreciate you guys having me on.
Yeah, man. Thanks so much for coming on.
Thanks for holding down Lindenhurst.
Likewise, man.